Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. Got my House Wrath mug today from Stable Grounds Coffee. I love it. So today's video is going to be a spoilery book review and chat about Kingdom of the Curse by Carrie Maniscalco. So I just finished this recently and I've been meaning to get a review up for you guys because I did do one of these for Kingdom of the Wicked, which I can have linked down below. And some of you have requested one for Kingdom of the Curse, and so we're gonna do that today. I'm very excited. We're just gonna kind of chat about the book, go through some of the plot points, you know, talk about it, figure out what's going on with this other book, etc. Now, this is not gonna be spoiler free. I'm gonna talk about general points of the book, but I'm also not gonna filter anything I say, so I am gonna reveal some of the plot points as we go throughout this video. So if you want to avoid all spoilers, please don't watch this video. Read this and then come back and discuss in the comments. This is gonna be very ranty and excited and just going into it. So if it feels a little unorganized, that's why. So first off, my thoughts about this book before we get into the spoilery parts. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars simply because I just had so much fun with it and it was so enjoyable to read about this setting and the different princes of hell. It was just a lot of fun for me, and this is kind of what I was hoping the first book was going to be to an extent. So this is something I was really excited about, and I was actually really surprised that I liked this one a little more than the first one, because usually second books you don't really like as much, but I really enjoyed it. So I loved it. It was great. I cannot wait for the third one. There's still a lot of plot points that are not mentioned, not touched on. I'm a little frustrated that we still have some unanswered questions, but I'm sure she's gonna get to those in the third book. Obviously, this picked up where Kingdom of the Wicked let off, where they're about to travel to the Seven Circles, hell. And that's what I wanted for the whole Kingdom of the Wicked book, so when she finally got there in the beginning of this book, I was like, yes, this is it, I'm so excited. If you did not enjoy Kingdom of the Wicked, I would give this a try. If you read it, you didn't really love it, I would still give this a try just because it's a little bit of a different feel. So I would give it a try if you weren't a fan of the first one, or if you've never read the first one. Read that, then continue with this one. Overall, I had a great time with it. Okay, so let's get into the chatty portion of this video, and we're just gonna go. So the Seven Circles, I was so excited that we finally got to see Emilia go to the Seven Circles, aka hell. I loved everything about finally being able to see it and all the descriptions and being able to look at the map and follow along and see the Lake of Fire and all the stuff. It was so cool, so fun. Some of it hasn't even come into play yet, which I hope comes into play in the third book. I found it kind of curious and kind of funny that hell was literally frozen over and cold instead of hot. Was that a joke, or was she just thinking, how can I make hell different? And so it was really cool and a different take on it, that it was, you know, frozen, cold, snowy, flowers are frozen, all of this stuff. I thought that was interesting. Not exactly what I was expecting, but I mean, if you look at the cover, it's very frost covered flowers and stuff. So it's not like there was no hints of it at all. I just didn't expect that because I went in blind, just excited to see what was gonna happen. So that was cool. And then traveling through the sin corridor was really interesting, and seeing how all of the different sins of the houses can influence you, and they can catch on to your emotions or things that you're tempted towards, and they can in the sin corridor it's amplified. So it can latch onto that and amplify it to your detriment. I thought that was really intriguing to see, because she's fighting temptation essentially with whatever it is, whether it's, you know, envy or sloth or whatever. If she was feeling any of those things, it would amplify it to the point where you can die. And I thought that was a really interesting take on it, and made it more sinister than just traveling through this corridor, you know? So I really liked that. I was really disappointed that the hellhounds were not a bigger part of the story. You just encounter one time, they're referenced a couple other times, but you don't really get to see them in action or see them incorporated into the story. And I wish there had been more of that, because I thought that was a really cool element and stuff that I like about these types of stories. But you win some, you lose some, I guess. Carrie, if you want to put those in the third book, that'd be cool. So seeing House Wrath was really cool. I really didn't know what to expect. I figured it'd be a lot of black and gold, because that was his whole aesthetic. Didn't really know what to expect for that, but it was really interesting to see all of the descriptions of his house. I also thought it was really funny that he had a rainbow library of all these different texts and stuff. And then he had his personal library, which was very browns, blacks, dark manly colors, masculine. But I just thought it was really funny that we had 2 libraries and that was the aesthetic of both of them. So that was fun. All of the descriptions are really beautiful and immersive. So, but Emilia's whole thing, so I was kind of confused by this and confused about Emilia's thought processes. So she goes to hell because she signed the contract to marry Pride, right? To join House Pride, to marry him, become his wife, which is at the end of the second book. Sorry if I spoiled that for you, but I warned you there'd be spoilers. So she thinks she can make a deal with Pride to marry Pride, join Pride's house, etc. And she thinks that even while signing that deal, that she can go to the 7 circles, interrogate all the brothers, learn their weaknesses from each other, and then like take all of them down from the inside to then return to her family. I don't really buy how that's possible or how that makes sense. So I understand why she wants to find her sister's killer. Makes perfect sense. She wants to find her sister's killer. She wants to take revenge upon them. I'm sure I would too in that moment. But how is she going to get the princess to give her information so that she can betray them? Like, aren't they painted as tricksters and clever and cunning and ruthless? Sure, they might want to undermine each other, but why would they give her like all of these secrets? Arsenal to take them down? Like, I don't think they would. I think they'd be way too smart for that. And even if they can't see through her intentions, I just feel like that's not a realistic thing for her to plan to do. Because they're not going to give up their weaknesses, and if they do, it'd be somebody else's weakness for their own gain. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just didn't understand how she was going to go about that or her thought process with that. Maybe she didn't know either, and she was just going in trying to do her best. I don't know. So I wasn't really sure about that whole part of the story. Emilia and Wrath interacting was good. It was cute. I enjoyed it. I like Wrath a lot. I think he showed a different side of himself in this book than he did in the previous book. Even though Emilia is still so suspicious and cold, and it kind of gets on my nerves. Not because she's not justified in feeling that way, but because in the first book I was like, just trust him, he's trying to keep you alive, and I was like getting really annoyed with her about that, and I felt the same in this book. I feel like, okay, I think he's proven to you at this point that you can trust him. I know you're upset and you feel like he lied to you, but he's a prince of hell. And in general, it seems like he's got your best interests at heart. If it's not your best interest, at least he has some good plan for you to further his goals. So he's not just gonna like try to off you randomly. So her continually being super suspicious and cold to him constantly was a little frustrating and a little grating on me, but I understand it. I'm sorry if you can hear a squeaky toy in the background. My puppy is in the kitchen, which is like 2 rooms away, playing, but you may be able to hear it. And again, it makes complete sense why she wouldn't trust any of them, but it was just kind of, I was just kind of like, just trust him. And I feel like there's a lot of things hinted at or touched on in this book that's not explained, similar to the first one, or given any answers to. So for instance, I think this book is hinting at a war between the brothers, between all of the brothers. And it's kind of hinted at, so like Envy's after these objects of power to kind of gain the most power. And it does talk about how the brothers are in this constant power struggle where each of them wants to be the most powerful. And even little things like their clothing being a little frayed could show that they're weak. They're always constantly battling for like power and influence. So Envy is after these like powerful objects, which makes it seem like he's trying to make himself as powerful as possible to then possibly take down this house or all of the houses and make him the head honcho. I don't know. Or just the most powerful, because it doesn't really make sense. And then Pride has those like field of flowers that can knock everyone out, including the wicked. So it just seems like there's like constant scheming. The brothers are constantly scheming and there's something like brewing underneath. Like a big war or battle or something. Maybe it's like a giant chess game where they're just trying to outwit each other. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to undermine each other as much as possible, but not trying to take control. I don't know, but it just seems like something like that is continually festering. And so another thing that was kind of, touched on, and I think maybe at the end you kind of see parts of that coming into play, but there's obviously another force at work that's not Emilia. and it's not the brothers. Or at least to me, that's what I think. In my opinion, like there's a force at work that's not the brothers. With the skulls that like show up that are like talking to Emilia and giving her their secret messages and this attempted murder, it just seems like there's something else going on that we're not really given pretty much any information about at all. And it's just these events that are happening and we're just thrown into them like whiplash. And then we're like, what the heck was that? And we don't know, we're figuring it out. So I feel like there's another force at work. It could be something we'll get into a little later. It could be something we haven't been introduced to yet. I don't know. Or, you know, maybe since Wrath needs to marry somebody and Pride needs to marry somebody, or that's what we were led to believe in the first one, maybe a brother is doing that because they don't want her to marry Wrath to break the curse. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I feel like it's not the brothers. I feel like there's something else. Or the brother has teamed up with this other force. Something like that. Which, why would they not want the curse broken? I don't know, but maybe they don't. Speaking of which, we still don't really know that much about the curse. We don't know what it entails. We don't know what the big deal is. We don't know what will happen once the curse is broken. And we still don't know because we read the whole book and even Emilia doesn't know. And at the very end, as Carrie Maniscalco likes to do with some cliffhangers, it's hinted at that the curse will be broken in something she's about to do. But then the book ends. So we still don't know what the curse is all about. We know that it inhibits them from saying things. We know that they're not as powerful as they could be, but we really don't know all that it entails. So I'm still a little salty about that because I just want to know what the freaking curse is about. And this book was titled The Kingdom of the Curse, so I thought we would flesh out this curse and figure it out, but no, we're gonna have to wait until another book, which is fine. It's fine. I guess we won't know until Emilia marries Wrath. So you go into this, she's pledged to marry Pride, she gets out of that. One of my kind of little qualms is that I thought it was a little too easy for her to get out of that contract with Pride. Like, she signed this contract in blood to join his house and to marry him because she thinks that's part of her destiny and to break this curse, bring down the devil, become Queen of Hell. I don't know. She did that, and I feel like it was way too easy to resolve her pledging herself to him. And then it's like she just automatically gotten out because she was engaged to Wrath with that magical bond that she did in the first book with the tattoos. It was like, oh, well, since you're already engaged to him and you didn't actually break it, surprise. I think we all knew that. Since you're still engaged to Wrath, you have an out that way so you don't have to follow through with this and it's a moot point. And it's like, what? How is it that easy? She signed that contract in blood, but you're saying that because she did this bond first, it doesn't matter? I don't know, that felt a little weird to me and too easy to get out of. So yeah, it felt a little too convenient for her to get out of that. Also, I kind of assumed that the marriage bond was not broken because their tattoos still existed, and I'm not sure why Em didn't grasp that sooner, except just, you know, plot points and to move the book forward, but like, I thought they were still engaged the whole time, which makes sense why he was getting upset about stuff, Wrath. So Em was a little slow on the uptake for that one. And so she gets a little upset about that, thinking it was like a secret that was kept from her, which whatever, you know, we all don't like things that are kept from us and feel like we don't have a choice. But I was right when I was talking about my theories of the first book. I was right in thinking that the bond had some influence over their emotions or the intensity of them, and they kind of go into that a little bit in this book, where they may not be controlled by them, but they're like nudged in a certain direction because of the marriage bond. Or I guess not marriage bond, the like engagement bond, because they have to technically get married, but essentially it's like the tattoos creates this bond where they're then encouraged to get married, to be physical, to have attraction, etc. So I was kind of right that it does influence you to a degree. So I was interested to see that and to see that I was right in that tracking. So she gets upset, she goes to Envy's house, right? Which, why, who knows, but she's doing her own plotting throughout all of this. It was cool to see Envy's house, and I was glad we got to see more of Envy. I think he was one of the more popular brothers in the first book, even though we didn't get to see all of them in the first book. He's an interesting character. So she sees Envy, and we see him trying to manipulate her for mutual gain. And I'm sure it's actually mostly for his gain, or for his, you know, underlying plotting that he's doing. And like I mentioned before, perhaps he's the one that's behind a lot of this and plotting to be the strongest house. Who knows, but he does have a lot of ambitions. And, you know, his sin is envy, so he wants what everyone else has to a degree, or he wants to be the best. So another thing I want to talk about is what is up with that witch lady that lives in the Seven Circles? Obviously she's like a healer and she can do tinctures and just all these different things. But like, what's up with her? I know that we learn more about her a little bit later and what she technically is, but what does that mean? And like, what's her deal? Why is she there? Is she helpful? Is she an enemy? I think she's helpful, but like, what the heck? And no one telling Emilia anything about any of it. It's just bizarre. Also, how is there literally nothing was said besides Emilia being upset? Literally nothing is said about her mortal family or the mortal world. Like, they don't go there, they don't see it, nothing's talked about. She's literally in hell in the Seven Circles, and that's all you get. You don't know what's going on in the mortal world. You don't know if like literally there's all-out war. You don't know what's going on with her family. You don't know what's going on with Nona, the suspicious granny. You know nothing. Like, we have no idea, and it's never talked about in this book at all. So I feel like that's a whole thing that I'm like, what is going on? I have no clue. And I'm kind of touching on basic plot points of this book. Obviously, I'm not like walking you through everything that happens in the book, but so they go to the Feast of Wolves, which is supposed to be this like absolutely terrifying event and horrible, and there's demons everywhere, and the demon brothers are doing their thing, and whoever hosts has like a big show of power, and it's just like this whole thing, and the guest of honor gets their like biggest fear ripped from them, or another consequence. I don't remember what the other consequence was. It's built up to be this absolutely terrifying thing, you know, horrifying. How would you be able to face that in front of everyone, especially princes of hell and demons that are gonna exploit you? And you know, Emilia is like gonna be chosen as the guest of honor because why wouldn't she be? And then it's given a random solution that makes no sense. And it just seemed really anticlimactic, like, you're gonna have your greatest fear ripped from you. But no, this person's gonna step in at the last second and save you. But no, they're not gonna have to do their greatest fear either, or their greatest weakness. We're just gonna force you guys in a room together. Who does that benefit? Besides the two people in question, who does that benefit? I don't know, that was really weird to me. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why any of the brothers would want that, unless they want the curse to be broken, but I just like, I don't understand why that was an acceptable option for either character. And it really kind of frustrated me because I was like, okay, I like the end result, this is a cute scene, whatever, but that doesn't make sense to me. Why would they allow them to choose that option instead of having Emilia's greatest fear ripped from her? Why? I would love to know Carrie Maniscalco's thoughts behind that, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I think worse of the wicked than they actually are, but like, no. I still love Wrath. Wrath's my boy. And like I said before, I still think Em needs to trust him and let him help her. I feel like her life would be honestly like 1,000 times easier if she confided to him and let him help her. I know he's like not to be trusted, but whatever. I think he's proven to be trustworthy in the past. So I think her life would have been 1,000 times easier to solve these things or to like get progress in any of it, but what do I know? So we did get to see a lot more of the brothers in this book, which I really enjoyed. So we got to see a little bit of envy and greed in the first book, and wrath obviously, and lust, like barely. But I thought it was really interesting to be able to get a lot more of the brothers in this book. We got to see a lot of gluttony, we got to see a lot of envy, and we even got to see pride, which I was looking forward to for a while. Pride was one of the ones I was most curious about. So I really loved seeing their dynamics and how their different sins play out, because it's not exactly what you would expect for all of them, which was really interesting. Those dynamics just are really intriguing to me, and I like want to know more and want to know the nuances of everything. So I loved getting to see more of that. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to see Sloth like at all, because I think he would be a hilarious character, and I was really curious to see what it would be like, and we never really get to see him, and he's the only one that you never really get to see. So I hope we get to see him in the next book, because I just think it would be a really funny character and a really fun character to write, but we'll see. I did like seeing a little bit of pride, and Envy's, like I said, a really enjoyable character to read about. Obviously I love Wrath. We didn't really get much of greed, as I mentioned. Get to see a lot more of gluttony and how all the princes are kind of like giving Emilia half answers or clues to things without fully explaining what they mean or the repercussions of that. which leads me to believe they're just all trying to undermine each other all the time. But it was cool. I really loved seeing more of them, and I hope she writes more about the brothers in the future. So something to be aware of that if you don't know, you should know, which you should probably know already, but if you don't know, I will explain. There is much more spice in Kingdom of the Cursed than Kingdom of the Wicked. So I think the way it played out is Kingdom of the Wicked she wrote under YA, but technically Kingdom of the Cursed she's writing under NA, which is like new adult. So while it's still like in the young adult section, whatever, she has come out and said that she wrote Kingdom of the Wicked with young adult as YA and Kingdom of the Cursed as new adult. So because of that, there's a lot more spicy scenes in this book, and they're like intentionally written in and all that stuff. So I just wanted to point that out so it's something you're aware of. So if you read Kingdom of the Wicked and you loved it and you're not a fan of spice, just know that before you go into Kingdom of the Cursed that there is a lot more. So if you're not comfortable with that, maybe don't pick up this book. I mean, it's not like, it's in it a lot, but it's not like saturated with it. So I think you'd be okay if you like skimmed a little bit. But I just want you to know that going in. And if you read Kingdom of the Wicked and you loved it and you wanted more spice, this is for you. You will probably love this then. So they have these like points of training where she's just training how to defend herself a little bit, and also training with magic, because I think we knew this in the first book, but it's not really explained or shown to an extent. Like, it is a little bit, but not to this extent. So there's like magic involved. So Wrath can influence her with all of the deadly sins. All of the 7 deadly sins, which is really crazy and really interesting. So he can like push this influence on her to be slothful so that she literally doesn't want to get off the ground. Or he can push her to kill somebody with wrath. Like, that concept is extremely intriguing and terrifying to know that you can just influence anyone with those emotions, especially if they already are inclined to any of those sins, to push them over the edge and make them like go to the extreme. That's really terrifying, but also really interesting and really cool. So he does this like magic training so that she can try to fight that influence on her from his brothers. You know, so that magic was really interesting. And while we're on the topic of training, there were several aspects about this book that reminded me of A Court of Mist and Fury. So if you don't know what that is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. And there were several elements that I was like, is anyone else getting A Court of Mist and Fury vibes from this book? So examples of what I mean by that: the bond. Obviously Emilia knows this exists because she did it, and he explains it to her at some point in Kingdom of the Wicked that it's a thing, but she tries to undo it. It's somehow not undone. Who could have guessed? But he keeps that from her, and so she finds out and she gets really upset because she's like, what do you mean we're bonded? And what do you mean this causes influence and whatnot? So that part. Second, the training. The training with magic and the training with physical combat. Not unique to the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. It's very common in fantasy in general to have like those types of trainings with magic and fighting, but just another similarity, especially with mind magic. And then the whole, there's this dark prince that's actually a really good person underneath it all and his tough exterior, even though he'll murder people that talk badly about you. And I'm not saying I dislike that trope or I'm making fun of it, because obviously I love Wrath, but you know, one of the other things that reminded me of it. So if you liked that book, you might like this book, I don't know. But there was just some similarity. I'm just curious if you guys drew those same conclusions that I did, if it reminded you of Akamath, or if you thought it was totally different. I'm curious to see what you guys say. So like I said, like, it's not enough that it's the same story, like it's not, it's a very different story. I'm just curious if you guys had similar thoughts. So now for the biggest plot reveal, kind of. So I guessed this. If you go back and you watch my Kingdom of the Wicked video, I had this theory and I guessed it and I undermined myself because I like said, well, maybe I'm wrong, whatever. But like, I really thought this and couldn't prove why I thought this, but really did. And I'm so happy to report that I was correct. So I was right. Wrath is the devil. It is not pride. I'm sure lots of you guessed that, but I was so excited that I guessed that when I read the first one, that I documented it on YouTube, and that when I heard the reveal in Kingdom of the Curse, I literally screamed in my house, I was right. And my husband was like, what's happening? And I was like, I was right, and it's documented. So Wrath is the devil, and that gets revealed towards the end of the book. And then Emilia has a whole conniption fit about that, upset about that, whatever. Don't know why she was upset. I figured it out a while ago, so let it be known that I was right. So yeah, Wrath is the devil. And like I said, Emilia gets really upset about this because I really don't know why, because she already doesn't have high opinions of him, and he's already a prince of hell, but she's upset that he's this. And then you find out that the cornicillos, so like the horns of the devil, aren't actually horns, that they're his wings. What book does that remind you of? So they're actually his wings, so I guess he's gonna get his wings back at some point. That'll be interesting. And that he was cursed by the first witch, and you know, that's why he hates witches. But you still don't know what the curse entails, really, and you don't really know what all that means yet, but you know, that's what's going on at this moment. So then there's this whole thing with Antonio and Vittoria being alive, but like kind of not alive. I feel like she's either somebody else, or she was brought back to life in a bad magic sense, because she's got like glowing lavender eyes, and she's in league with Antonio. Hi. Maybe this was all the sisters doing, and it had nothing to do with the princes of hell. I'm starting to lean more towards that, but I'm really confused about the whole stuff with Antonio and Vittoria and what is going to play out in the next book. There's a lot of like unanswered questions with a lot of things, but I feel like maybe Vittoria is behind all of this, like from the beginning. Maybe she was plotting this. I don't know. But it just seems very convoluted and like I don't want to say it's not well explained, because I'm sure she's just, again, withholding information to, you know, tie everything together in the last book. But I'm really confused as to how this is all going to play out and come together, and what the different roles Vittoria, Antonio, and the Kingdom of the Wicked have played. And I feel like Emilia is just like a pawn in all of this, or just like a bystander that got caught up in it. But I have no idea how this is going to play out. But she's Queen of Hell now. Emilia is Queen of Hell. Well, I guess she will be soon. I guess they have to like get married and complete the engagement like bond thing, and they haven't done that yet, but it's like leading towards that towards the end of the book. So she's Queen of Hell. What? That's a thing. We'll have to see how that plays out. Also curious to see if she had a past life. See, there's a lot of like threads that have not been connected, and I'm really curious about, and have no idea how this is all going to come together. But maybe like her and Vittoria were like reborn as twins, as like these previous witches, and that's why it's all coming together the way it is. I don't know. So obviously there's still a lot of unanswered questions in this series, and we don't know how the curse is going to play out. We don't know how Vittoria's alive, or what that means. We don't know if Emilia's had a past life. We don't know how Wrath will come into power again as the devil when the curse is broken. We don't know what that means for his brothers. We don't know if his brothers are in league with Vittoria, or what's happening. We don't know what's up with the old lady. We don't know what's up with Nona or the mortal world at this point. So there's a lot of stuff still up in the air, and I am very curious to see how it's gonna go. What did you guys think of this book? I mentioned this in the beginning, and I'll mention it again. I really enjoyed this. I had a really good time with it, regardless of my little qualms with different plot points, or thinking things were too easily resolved or not explained at all. I still really enjoy this story overall. I will continue. I believe she's doing one more book. It's the third book. I don't think there's a title or release date or anything like that. I don't know if she's doing any more. She kind of posted about this on Instagram, where she said that she doesn't think she's gonna write anything. She's not under contract, and she doesn't think she's gonna write anything at the moment in this series, but she did ask if there was any brother you'd want to see a perspective from or writing on, who would it be? So I'm assuming she's gonna wrap this up in the third book, and then we'll see if she gets to it again later. But she did talk about how she has other stories that she wants to write, which I will probably read anything she writes. So comment down below, let me know your theories of what's gonna happen in the next book. I am dying. I really want the next book now, and I read this one much quicker than Kingdom of the Wicked, so now I have like probably another year to wait for this book, and that's gonna drive me nuts. So Cliffhangers suck, man. But yeah, let me know, did you like this book more than the first? Did you like the first one more than this book? Are you gonna continue the series? Are you curious about the third one? How do you think it's all gonna play out? Let me know, I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, well that was this random spoilery chat rant video review on Kingdom of the Cursed. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye. Hey everyone, post-filming Katie here. I just wanted to pop in here real quick to say thank you so much for 200 subscribers. It absolutely blows me away that anyone watches my videos, let alone 200 of you wanting to subscribe. So thank you so much for all of your support. I would love to have coffee with each and every one of you if I could, and looking forward to interacting with you guys and a lot of more videos in the future. Thank you so much.